Case File: The Liar Incident, 1883. Pinocchio was never a puppet. In 1883, in a small and isolated village in Italy, a seemingly insignificant child case was recorded. Recorded name: Pinocchio. Real name: unknown. Birth record: none. At first, the case was treated as a situation involving an elderly man. The man's name: Geppetto, an old carpenter. His wife had died years ago. He never had any children. But witness statements began to contradict each other, because Geppetto had been talking to someone inside his house for a long time, and that someone had never been seen by anyone. Geppetto's house, Geppetto's house, was one of the oldest buildings in the village. The smell of wood, constantly burning lamps and unfinished puppets hanging on the walls. But everyone who entered the house said the same thing. It feels like someone else is here. Geppetto would sometimes speak out loud. He would wait for answers. He would laugh, pause, then speak again. But there was no one else in the house until Pinocchio appeared. The child. One morning, Geppetto came down to the village with a child. No one had ever seen that child before. The boy looked pale. His eyes were fixed on something unseen, and his movement was not like other children. It felt as if he had just learned how to move. The villagers asked Geppetto who the child was. Geppetto only said one thing: "I made him." Everyone assumed it was a figure of speech, but Geppetto's face did not look like he was joking. Pinocchio did not interact with other children. He did not play. He did not run. He did not laugh. But he spoke constantly to himself. And everything he said revolved around the same idea. This is not real. This isn't real. None of this is real. The first incident occurred at school. The teacher asked Pinocchio a simple question: "Did you do your homework?" Pinocchio locked his eyes onto the teacher, and without hesitation, he answered, "Yes." But he hadn't. It was an ordinary lie. But one of the children later said his face changed. The teacher didn't notice it at the moment, but minutes later something felt off. Pinocchio's facial features seemed slightly displaced. The beginning of change. Every time Pinocchio lied, small changes began to occur. First his voice changed, then his expressions, then his gaze. But the most disturbing change appeared in reflections. One day, his reflection was seen in the classroom window, but the reflection was not in sync. It moved slightly later than he did. Witness statement: Geppetto's neighbor Maria gave a statement. "One night, I saw the boy in the window, but he wasn't looking outside. He was staring at his reflection." and he was talking to it. According to Maria, Pinocchio said, "You look more real than me." Mirrors. Geppetto's house was filled with mirrors, but something strange stood out. Pinocchio avoided them. One day, Geppetto forced him to stand in front of one. Pinocchio closed his eyes and said, "I'm not there." Geppetto shouted, "That is you." Pinocchio slowly opened his eyes and whispered, "No, that one is better." The lies evolved. Pinocchio's lies were no longer simple. One day, he told his teacher, "I came to school yesterday," but he hadn't. Yet the attendance record marked him present. The teacher froze because she clearly remembered he wasn't there, but the record said otherwise. The blue fairy. Pinocchio began talking about someone. A woman. The blue one. Geppetto asked who she was. Pinocchio replied, "She tells me what to say." Geppetto got angry. Lying is wrong. Pinocchio smiled and said, "Lies fix me." Identity collapse. Pinocchio started describing himself differently. One day he told Geppetto, "I am not your son." Geppetto shouted. Pinocchio continued, "I was never a child. I am just a story." The final night. That night, neighbors heard noises from the house. Furniture being dragged. Things breaking. And a child's voice repeating the same sentence. "This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real." Then the voice changed, and one final sentence was heard. "Now it is." Disappearance. The next morning, Geppetto was gone. No signs of struggle. Doors locked. Windows closed. But Pinocchio was sitting in his room, silent, still, and smiling. Final interview. A doctor was called to examine the boy. He asked only one question. "Who are you?" Pinocchio remained silent for a long time. Then he lifted his head and said, "I can be whoever I want now." Then added a final note. The child does not identify with a fixed identity. Conclusion. Today, Pinocchio is remembered as a children's story. A puppet, a boy, and a lesson. But some researchers believe this was never a fairy tale. This may have been a case of a child rewriting reality through lies. And perhaps the most disturbing part is not lying. Perhaps the most disturbing part is when lies start becoming real.